Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our first press conference of the 2023-24 season. Obviously, we kick off our Durand Cup campaign, so we wanted to take this opportunity to speak to all of you before we officially start our season tomorrow. So welcome once again. We've got head coach Des Chhangte with us, along with Chhangte. The format for the press conference will remain the same as always. If you have a question, please put your names in the chat box. Once I take your name, you can ask your question. Just a reminder to everyone, please remain on mute and only unmute yourself when you have to ask questions. Just while we wait for questions to come in, Coach, I'll just start you off. A new season off the back of successful last season. How has preseason been, and how are you looking forward to the challenges that lie ahead in the long season that's coming up?
Yeah, I thought you were going to let us go with no questions. That's good afternoon to everyone on the call. Thank you for joining us. It's another exciting season for us. This is my third year at the club. I'm obviously building up on what we did last year and the records that we broke, but more so the manner that we went about breaking those records and achieving what we did was the most pleasing thing for me. So it's the continuing trying to get better as a club, continuing trying to get better in terms of how we play, and continue trying to push these players to see how far we can actually get them, because we were able to see them really showcase the football that they're capable of playing if the platform and the framework is put around them and they're supported last season. So it's very much about just trying to improve on what we did last year, and we've spent the last 2.5 weeks trying to do that to prepare ourselves for what will be an exciting Durand Cup.
Thank you, Coach. Just an opening one for Chhangte as well. Chhangte, you had a very successful season personally as well, along with the team. A couple of very important individual honours to you, Hero of the League last season, Indian Super League, and the AIFF Men's Player of the Year. How has the last 12 months been for you, and what are you looking forward to the most in this new season?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I think it has been a really good season, and I think it's because of God's grace, and I will try to do my best to replicate the performance that I had last season, even in this year. I know it's going to take a lot of sweat, hard work and determination, dedication, but with God's grace and God's help, with the help of my teammates, I think I can do even better individually and as a team. But most importantly, I want to win the title for the team. So we'll try our best.
Thank you, Chhangte. We'll head straight to Rahul. Rahul Madhavan, if you can just introduce yourself and your organization and ask a question.
Good morning, Coach and Chhangte. So I'm Rahul Madhavan from Sports Media. So my question for you is, Mumbai City are favorites to top the group, but how do you assess your opponents in the Durand Cup group stage?
Yeah, well, we played them last year. Mohammedan give us a very good game. It took us to the 89th minute to actually score the winner that puts through to the final. So we know that they're a good team, despite that obviously they've changed the coach and they've changed some of the players. We know that they've been playing local league, and they've been playing well in the local league. And then of course they've got the addition of the foreign players that they've changed coming into this year. So we're expecting a very, very tough opponent. You know, they're a very good I-League team, and I'm sure one that will be challenging again to try and come up into the ISL themselves next year. Firstly, and then of course we face Jamshedpur, and then we face the Navy afterwards. And again, two teams that we're familiar with our exploits against Jamshedpur last year, regardless of the team that they bring, and then of course the Navy, who we played in the first game last year. So first and foremost is Mohammedan, and making sure we're as prepared as we can be for that, and that's what we've tried to do the last 2.5 weeks, and that's as much as we've looked at. But very much expecting 3 very tough games and 3 good games, and it gives us a chance to try and start as well as we did last year.
Thanks a lot, Rahul. We'll come back later in case you have any follow-up questions. We'll head to Livin. Living from IPL.
Yeah. Good afternoon, coach. Hope you're doing well. My question is related to where we finished off last season in the Super Cup with an All-Indian team and performed decent. And also, Mumbai's sister club Melbourne City won the league premiers last season with an All-Australian forward line. So, is there some strategy do you think Mumbai can also adopt going forward, let's say 5 years down the line, and also achieve success in India? After all, like the national team coach has been asking all clubs to play more Indians in the attacking and midfield positions to increase the number of options.
Yeah, the Super Cup was good, wasn't it? It was the approach that we took to try and showcase that it doesn't necessarily need to be foreign players, but we have good Indian players, and if they're given the platform, like I said earlier, to showcase what they can do, and they're supported, and it's very clear on their roles. I was very happy with the performances that we put in at that Super Cup. So for me, it doesn't matter whether they're across the front line. The reality is 7 of the 11 every week, every game, take to the field, Indian players that is. And we've even played last year with more than that in our starting lineup, and we've also finished games with a full Indian 11. So to me, it doesn't matter whether it's Indian or foreign. It's about making sure that you put the right players on the pitch to play the style of football we want. And then it's up to those players to showcase what they can do, and that's the pleasing thing that got us through and allowed us to be as successful as we were both last year in the ISL and certainly the Super Cup.
Thank you, coach.
Thanks, Livin. We'll head to Subhashish from NNIS. Subhashish, you can ask a question.
Hi, coach, and hi, Chhangte. Good morning. Coach, my question is for you that what is the idea behind to bring Akash to strengthen the team?
Sorry, I thought I spoke to that. Akash, everybody knows the quality that Akash possesses. He was able to demonstrate that for a couple of seasons over his time with Hyderabad, and obviously broke into the India national team and held down that starting spot. But again, I've spoken in the off season, it's not about us looking across the league, and there's some wonderful players in the league, both Indian and foreign. And it's not about just going and picking the best player, and of which there are several across the teams last year that were coming off a contract especially. It's about making sure that we select players that fit the style of football we want and fit the player profile that we have here to allow them firstly to come in and contribute towards what we want to do as a collective. And secondly, from a development standpoint, he fitted so many of the boxes that we look for. Young, he's 21, defensively very strong, but in terms of an attacking sense as well, will offer us something different this year that we felt we needed if we wanted to continue developing our game. So many different reasons, but the main two was to try and make sure that we can continue getting better as a team. And the second is, again, part of the reason I was brought here was around developing Indian players and young players in particular, and he certainly fits that profile.
Thank you, coach, and all the best for the Durand Cup.
Thank you.
Thank you, Subhashish. We come to Rizu from the Sports Grid.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, coach. I am Rishi Shukla from the Sports Grid. So, my question is, last time you and the boys came close to winning the Durand Cup, but unfortunately lost the final. And there are a lot of changes this season in the squad, especially the overseas players. So, how has your preparations changed from last season?
Yeah, we've kind of, I think we're in a better position than we were 12 months ago, and that's been because of the time that this group has been able to spend together. And although yes, there has been some change, and I think the two biggest notable ones is obviously Jahul and Fall, who have been wonderful players for this football club, and two players that I will miss dearly. But as football is, things change. But in terms of our starting 11 or our starting players from last year, you look across our team, Fubar is still here and now signed a long-term contract. We've brought Akash in at left back. We still have Rostin Griffiths and Mehtab, who has also signed a long-term deal. Rahul, who has extended his stay at right back. And if it's the same midfield three, we still have what was Apoya, Greg and Alberto. And of course we supplement that with Vineeth, who has again extended his stay. And then our front line is exactly as it was. Not only have we extended the stays of people like Vikram, but we've also managed to re-sign Diaz. We've also got Bipin and the young man next to me who had a wonderful season. And then we've tried to supplement that with some really good young local players, of which I'm very excited about and what I've seen in the last 2.5 weeks. So yes, there's been change, but overall in terms of what was our starting 11, not so much itself. I think we've really tried to strengthen that left back, which Akash will hopefully be able to come in and do. And yes, Fall and Jahul going. It'd be interesting to see. But I feel we've replaced them and replaced them well with Thierry coming in at centre back, and Joel, who you have yet to see, but has been very impressive in the 2.5 weeks that we've had him here.
Thank you, Coach, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rizu. Aditya from ESPN.
Hi, good afternoon, Coach. Last year, this time I asked you a question about Chhangte, and you said that there was a lot of work that was done on him in the final third, and I mean, we saw the results that happened last year. But where do you think he goes from here this season? Because potentially he has 2 or 3 people now marking him because of the threat that he poses. So, how do you think Chhangte's game potentially evolves or gets better from what it was last year when he was the best player in the league?
It's a difficult one to answer in front of you. I think it's, Chhante's just mentioned around trying to replicate the form of last year. I think when you have the performances over that long of a consistent time frame, it wasn't a month period where he went very well and then dipped, and it wasn't a 2 or 3 month period where he went and dipped. It was a very consistent period of time, which I would now say is 12 months since the last time you asked that question, that those performances have been what everybody's seen them to be. So for me, it's not about replicating that form. It's recognising that is now the player that is here, and that is now the norm that I'm sure he expects, and now the norm that we expect. But again, now it's a different approach to development. It's making sure he continues to do everything that he has done and he is still doing to make sure he can replicate that. But now it's about finding solutions to other problems that will come up, because people would have seen what he did last year and the impact that had, and they'll come up with different ways to try and stop that. And not just him, but obviously us as a team. So it's going to be a different development strategy, but one that's already started. But until the season gets going, it's going to be interesting to see how that comes up. But not just Chhangte, it's the same with all the players we have here. They're very open-minded, they're very hard-working, and they do a lot of work away from what you see on the TV that allows those performances to be made. So for me, it's now the norm that these performances are what they are, and it's now going to be about adding to that to see how good not just Chhangte can be, but of course the other players that stepped up last year to contribute to what was a very, very successful team, collective success.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Aditya. Devin, Rahul, before we come back to follow-up questions, just one for Chhangte. Chhangte, you finished last year's Durand Cup as the Golden Boot winner, and that must some expectations for you in your own in mind. How are you looking forward to this year's tournament?
Well, yeah, I think it's going to be like the coach mentioned already. Players are going to, coming hard on me. But I think, and I've seen, especially the past 2 weeks, I've got a good squad. We've got a good squad, and especially the players playing around me, they were very, very helpful, and we've been gelling up very, very well. So I think there won't be a problem going forward. But most importantly, from my side, I can't be complacent, satisfied. I think I have to push the boundaries to get even more better, and this is what I'm trying to do this season. And the Golden Boot, let's aim for another one.
Thanks a lot, Chhangte. We'll come to Livin. Livin, you have a follow-up?
Good afternoon, Coach, once again. And can you just sum up the pre-season 2 of Thailand once again, how it all went? And you also played a closed-door match and won it. So how it will help Mumbai going down the line this season?
Yeah, we played a couple of games, but the one at the end was a nice way to finish. But we went to Thailand same way we went this time last year, over to Dubai for pre-season, and we've done that in the club, and we're very supportive of it, because obviously the monsoon rains in Mumbai make it very difficult to do anything on the fields. But we went this year and we had everybody with us from the start, and that's so important to what we want to do here in the environment that we have. We must make sure that everything we do, we try and do it together, and if we can have everyone together like we've had. It was only 2 weeks in Thailand, but it allowed us just to revisit the good work that we did last year, because we know we need to get better this year, and there'll be different things that we need to do. But it's important that we reflect and work on what we did well last year, because it was a hugely successful season for many reasons. And again, from a playing style perspective, we need to recognise what really worked well, and then also look at the areas we want to improve for this year. So we spent the first 2 weeks in Thailand, wonderful facilities, really nice hotel, wonderful people that looked after us, to try and just reflect on and work on and remind players, like I said, a large bulk of our players are still from here from last year and maybe the year before. But we've got a couple of new additions that it was nice to introduce to what we did and how we did it. And now it's going to be about adding to that. So we've had the reminder, now it's about adding to that to make sure that hopefully throughout the Durand Cup we can be successful, but making sure that at the end of the Durand Cup that we are in the best position we can be to start our season, because our first game will not be an ISL game, it will be a Champions League game. So yeah, it was a very worthwhile trip, and one that hopefully puts us in the same position that we faced this time last year.
Thank you, Coach. All the best for the new season.
Thank you.
Thanks, Evan. Rahul, your follow-up?
Hello, Coach. A question for you. So, in addition to signing Akash Chopra, the club have also replaced both Jaho and Paul. So, can we expect more potential incoming from Mumbai City in the next month?
No, that's us finished. We done our recruitment very early. Tried to do as much as we could before players were too far gone from the season. We see a lot of the re-signings, certainly, and I think that's one thing that often gets overlooked. We made 7 re-signings from players that were heavily impactful in what we did last year. So although there's only been 3 and 4 with Jayesh now in terms of senior players coming in this season, we've actually re-signed 7 of what I would class starting 11 players. And that for me was the most important thing, was to make sure that we retain the services of those players, because we've spent a lot of time, and as have they, contributing and learning what we do. And then when we complement, people are always going to move on for different reasons. But when we are able to secure those 7, as well as the others that are already signed, and bring in others that will hopefully complement what we do, and I'm hopeful that that's what Thierry will do, and that's what Joel will do, and of course we brought Jayesh in. But a lot of that was done early, a lot of the planning was done early, and I'm very happy with the recruitment that we've been able to do to allow us to have everyone here from day one. So there is no more planned business for us at the moment, although I know the window is still open. But at the moment there is no planning on us bringing anyone further.
Thank you, Coach, and all the best for this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul. We'll come back to Aditya. Aditya.
Coach, as you said, mid-September the first Champions League game comes up. What are your thoughts on the potential disruption caused to the squad by the Asian Games squad? I think you lose Akash, Apuya, and Vikram, if I'm not wrong. So, have there been dialogues with the IFF, or are you resigned to having to play that game without those 3?
I'd love to be able to answer that question, but I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything personally, and the club haven't heard anything from either the federation or the national team staff on the Asian Games. So until I or we get something through from that, I can't really. I'm not in a space to answer that. All I can say is we've always been supportive of the national teams, and of course we will release players for the FIFA windows, but that's as much as I can say on that at the moment.
Thanks. Yeah,
thank you.
Any further questions on this topic per se can be directed to me, and we'll have someone from the club management respond to those. Thanks all. Any further questions, guys? You can put your names in the chat box. Coach, in the meantime, do you have any your young players, the younger boys who you've earmarked for some playing time in the Durand Cup, and how important will this tournament also be for the young talent that we have in the squad?
Yeah, it'll be a continuation on from the Super Cup. We see young players. It's one thing getting an opportunity, but we don't just give players game time, because to do that, to give maybe a young Nickham or those types of players, if we put Nickham on the field, it's at a cost to maybe a Chhangte, because he has to lose game time to come off for that to happen. So the players have to work and work hard to get the opportunity to come on the field, and then they get the opportunity to showcase what they can do. And that was where the Super Cup was very useful for us, because it allowed us players like Haaland at centre back, Ayush, who scored his first professional goal. It allowed those two in particular, young players that hadn't really featured in the first team, to come in and show that not only were they capable, but they could really contribute towards what we do. And when I look at what we've signed both at the back end of last year, I've already mentioned Nickham. We've obviously got Nathan at left back, and we've brought Franklin in as a midfield player. So we've gone and looked at succession planning, but also we've signed these players for the long term, where they can work alongside a Chhangte, they can work alongside a Roston Griffiths and a Metab now, and the players that we have to continue learning. But if the conditions are right and they've worked hard and there's the opportunity to, of course we've shown we're not worried about giving young players or any players the opportunity to take to the field, whilst also being mindful that we need to make sure we approach this competition with firstly the respect it deserves, and secondly for the purpose of what we're here, and it's to prepare our first team for the Durand Cup, but also for the start of the season. So yes, in a long-winded way, young players will get an opportunity, but they need to work for it. And secondly, we want to progress as far as we can, both in this tournament and making sure we're as prepared for the season. And if they can contribute towards that as well, then it's a win-win for everybody.
Thank you, Coach. Just one final call in case anyone has any questions. You can put your names in the chat box. Give it a couple of seconds. All right. Doesn't seem like any further questions. Thank you so much for your time, Coach. Thank you, Chhangte, and thank you everyone for being here this afternoon. We'll be meeting each other more often through these press conferences and through the Durand Cup and beyond. Thank you once again for your support. And any questions that you guys may have, or any interaction requests, you can direct them to either our representatives at Wordswork or to me directly. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Dr.
Thanks.